I'm Marianne Clyde,
And I'm Lorna McGill.
and we're
Hi,
here
Mary
with the Isn't Hi. There you go. We're here with the Isn't She Amazing podcast with Eileen Gould. We are so excited about this exciting guest because do you know she was the first woman general contractor licensed in California? Now that was
that's a big that is a big
that's all
accomplishment.
she had to tell us to get us really impressed to begin with. And Eileen, thank you for taking time to be with us today.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
It sounds like you've built yourself quite a company. You've built houses from 2,500 square feet to 20,000 square feet. You work with a dozen contractors, 24 contractors, I think,
I have
subcontractors.
19 subcontractors that work for me, and I never have to raise my voice. It's insane. And I'm 5'1", 88 pounds. Hey, guys, I put food on their table. Why wouldn't they love me?
There's a powerful woman right there. So tell us how it all started.
Okay, so I'm going to start way back. So I grew up in Philadelphia. I had two older brothers, one 17 years older than me, one 15 years older than me.
Wow.
My mother was really into different organizations. She has some literary things at the library in Washington that have been published and so on and so forth. I was a mama's girl, very close. I had two older brothers and I was the only girl and I was the baby. So by the time I was growing up, they were kind of leaving the house. So I kind of grew up as an only child. So I was, going along with boyfriends and things like that. And I was going to Penn State. And I went as an English major because I always loved English. And I've also written a book. I'm going to write my second book too. So my mother ended up getting cancer. She got bone cancer. We used to go every year to Atlantic City because we lived in Philadelphia and it was very close. She came back and she said, I have bone cancer. Of course, I was so protective and naive because I'll tell you about my childhood that I had no idea. Well, what happened is she needed to get her leg removed and she needed to have a prosthetic leg.
Okay.
And at my 16th birthday, she walked with a prosthetic leg and they had rented a boat for me on the Delaware and I had a big Sweet 16.
Wow.
I had no idea that this was terminal. I was naive. And it turned out that my mother, I needed to give her morphine. I needed to change her dressing. I needed to do all that because my father really just couldn't handle it. My brothers and her were on the outs. So, growing up, I had all this on my plate.
That's a lot for a young girl. My mom had cancer and I remember doing that, but I was older. That was a lot for you to deal with.
A lot. So she came to me one day and said, you can't be an English major. I'm like, really? Why not? She said, because what are you going to do? You'll only be a teacher. And I said, well, is that bad? I mean, I wasn't sure. She said, I'm going to enroll you in medical college in Pennsylvania. I'm like, what? I honestly hate sick people. I'm not wild about needles, which I'll go back to continue the story. And I'm like, what? That's enough for me. She says, yep, you'll graduate. You have 2 years in Penn State. You'll graduate and you'll be a medical technologist. I'm like, what? So I started this program and we had to practice on each other taking blood. I fainted, always fainted. We had to go into a morgue and it was like, oh my God, I'm in such a misplaced. How could this be? Nonetheless, my mother died. And I knew that my father would never remarry till I got married. And it was the summer of almost my 21st birthday. 3 girlfriends and I went out to California. I had an aunt here. And we stayed in Beverly Hills. And I opened up the Beverly Hills Courier and it said, medical technologists needed for 3 doctors in Century City. I said to them, I'm going to apply. They said, are you crazy? Your father.
Destiny.
Father will never remarry unless I marry. And I'm just not, I'm too young. So I said, I'll tell him if I get the job, I'm going to just stay for a short period of time. We had one car between the three of us, never been to California. I took a bus to Century City from Beverly Hills, which isn't horrible. I went in, this older doctor hired me on the spot for $20 an hour. I was like, whoa, I'm not going back to Philadelphia, like to work in blood bank for what, $7 an hour? I'm not stupid. So I came back on bus and I said, he hired me. And I said to him, I gotta do some things. So let me get back to you. And we worked it out. I told my father I was only going to stay for 6 months. He shipped my car out. Well, I had no idea. Remember, I grew up in Philadelphia, which is a lot like Virginia. We didn't have movie stars. We had row houses. I mean, we weren't poor, but we certainly weren't movie star quality.
Mhm.
So I didn't know that he was a movie star doctor. So I was running the lab. My first task was for Jack Nicholson. Here's a cup. Here's a magazine. Could we get a sperm count? I'm like, what? Are you kidding? He's like, yeah, okay. I did my claim to fame. I did Jack Nicholson's sperm count. I did Sam Davis's blood. I was the only one he would let take blood from. I did Mel Brooks and Bankrupt. I mean, all of these stars. And what's
Here's a
her
woman with connections.
I mean, really, no joke. And then, so Mrs. Jones would come in to the doctor's office and she would have a 12 o'clock appointment, but then Tina Turner or somebody would come in and they would take her, Mrs. Jones, and be like a schmuck waiting, like, oh my God. And I grew up, I had no idea. So turned out that a lot of the people were snorting a lot of cocaine at that time. So they had metal things in their mouth, in their nose. And I was like, the most exciting thing I did in Philadelphia was maybe, play pinochle, took some Quaaludes, So I was like, oh my God, she's going to die. So I could not believe, and every day I would go in, I would open that little urine thing and on urine, names. And I thought, oh, I'm going to throw up. This is so disgusting. So I came home. The girl who I came out to California with, she went to Temple. She had her AA, but she was like, not doing so well. She and my mother were best friends. Although I'm 6 months older than her, my mother said, you know how flighty Eileen is. You got to take care of her. So she felt like she needed to take care of me, which was great because I worked. She went to the market. She made the bed. She did everything. And she would say to me, you never buy Kleenex. I'm like, well, what do you buy? No, you buy store brand. I'm like, what? I had no idea. I really had no idea. So she lived with me. And then I had a boyfriend that I was seeing who came out from Philadelphia to go to Pepperdine. He was a few years older. And he turned out to be such a joke. And he was like the biggest Quaalude dealer. You might want to cut some of this. I don't know for our audience.
No, we don't cut. We don't cut.
Okay.
Go.
So he was like the biggest Quaalude dealer. And it turned out like on Valentine's Day, I had key to his place and he was, sleeping with another gal. I was beside myself because I really thought, I was going to marry him. I wasn't.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to, so that was my introduction.
That was your foundation in California.
That was my well, I have younger, but let's start there. That was my
chutzpah right from the beginning.
Right there. So then I started dating these, like the doctor came to me and said, do you know that your boyfriend has bullet wounds in his back? I'm like, yeah, I know. He goes, well, it's probably like not a good thing. I'm like, I'm sure it's not a good thing. You're right. It's not a good thing. So he would go and I loved him because he was so much fun and he was a great dancer and I loved to dance. And I just had the best time. And when my father came out to California, he rented a limo to take my father from the airport. And my father was like,
whoa,
crazy. I'm like, well, no, he's kind of cute. He's Italian, with tight pants. I'm kind of like, yeah, he dances. He's great. But, I didn't tell my father. So anyway, so through all of that, I come home to my roommate. I said, I got to get out of this medical field. I cannot stand these sick people. I cannot do another urinalysis. I cannot do another stool sample. I'm going to vomit. So we sat down and said, what are you good at? Well, I was crazy about my bedroom in Philadelphia. I had a canopy bed and everything was pink and like a sage green, even in that time.
What
And
a
I made
A princess.
no question, princess. So I made everybody take off their shoes when they came to my room. And I had a lint roller that picked up all the lint because I had like one of those, fuzzy carpets. So my girlfriend said, well, you would be great with design because you're so good at putting things together. I said, you know what? Good idea. So I went back to UCLA at night while I was still working for the job. I ended up getting married. My husband is 17 years older than me. He has his PhD in pharmacy from USC, but he has Alzheimer's. So that's a whole nother topic. So, I didn't know my father was so excited, marrying like a PhD, a doctor in pharmacy. And he seemed like someone I would have children with. I was through all the bad boys and the drugs and everything. And, he never took any drugs because he was a pharmacist and didn't believe it. So too bad, but that was the way it was. So I ended up getting married, and then I started working for a nurses registry. So I did proctology, like if a nurse went on vacation, I did proctology. The doctor would say, come here, Eileen, let me open up. I'm like, I don't want to see anybody's asshole. No, thank you. But no, thank you. He's like, yeah, it's really interesting. I'm like, oh. I went to a dermatologist for a week where they did that skin thing and the skin is all over the walls. I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad.
Just turned contractor.
I mean, it was like insane. I went to a podiatrist who would stick needles in older people's feet because they couldn't cut their feet. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy shit. So I went back to UCLA.
Oh, let me put that. How old were you when you were doing all of this?
22. So I had felt like I'd lived half my life already. So I went to UCLA at night. And then I went to the Interior Design Guild. I had my son, and, I was able to work for this nurses registry while, I was trying to figure everything out. So my first job, I don't even know if they have wallpapers to go there, but they had wallpapers to go. So I did the vignettes and picked the wallpaper and rented furniture and things like that. So that was my first job. And then I worked on Melrose for a company that did Wooten desks, which were high-end antique desks that went into commercial property. So that was all very interesting to me. And so I figured, okay, so now my son is a little older. He was 2 or 3. I was ready for him to go to preschool or daycare 2 days a week. So I started developing my business. And I just thought, I don't want to work for anyone else. I want my own time. I'm a yogi. I love to meditate. I don't, it's not my thing. So my first job was in Malibu. I learned a lot of things because when you go to design school, and now I have my teaching credentials in design and construction, you don't learn the business end. So they send you out there and it's not just putting 2 fabrics together. It's not just measuring for a window treatment, but it's all kinds of math and science and being able to tell a client, yeah, this is going to cost you 200,000 or 300,000. Well, they have to trust you. They have to know you're going to do a good job. So you can't start there. You have to start at, a lower thing. Well, here, this is going to be a 20,000. And that's how I built my business. And then I had my daughter, and then I got my teaching credentials. So I started teaching DIY classes for kitchens and bath. And I do love to teach. So I have 2 classes in February. So that was all kind of, working out okay. And, and I had my ups and downs with so then it came to be like 2008 or maybe even a little before, and the economy was going to shit. But I had a girlfriend who was a set designer. So I said, I'll learn that. Sure, I'll learn that. So, and a makeup artist. So I went to, with her, and I went to makeup artist school. You'll love this. So I had to put on false eyelashes, and I brought my girlfriend who I was, had been living with before I got married. And she said, the eyelashes are stuck together. I said, oh, shut up. This mean woman is going to come by and just say they're great. She's not going to ask you to open up your eyes. Just say, they're fine. They look beautiful. I'll figure it out later. So I got I swear to God, I got my makeup thing. So what do you think I get? My first job is Fredericks of Hollywood. I'm not, a highly made up person. I don't know. I'm a blonde anyway. I do a little, streaks here and there. So Fredericks of Hollywood, they said, you're going to come and you're going to, do makeup here. And then you got to do a lot of red lipstick and eyelashes. And I'm like, wow, this stuff is bimbos. I mean, really? Okay, I'll do it. The woman comes to me, swear to God, and she says, would you mind patting down one of the men? I'm like, I don't know if that's in my contract, but all right, I'll do whatever I need to do. I was getting paid well. He had on one of those G-strings that were the elephant, right? So I went in with my powder and I said, hi, I'm Eileen. I usually do the women, blah, blah, blah. And I powdered his thighs and he got the biggest hard one I've ever seen. So I'm like, oh, there you go. Let me wait outside. You get yourself together and we'll talk. He came out. He said, thank you so much for being professional. I'm like, what else do you want me to do? Like, really, what was I going to do? So I did the makeup and I did Wesson Oil, Thrifty People. I did a lot of commercials, the sets, and then the makeup. And then I was asked by, what was his name? Larry Flint. Could you do bedrooms for, what was the name of his magazine? I even forget. Anyway, Larry Flint wasn't Playboy, Hustler.
Hustler, Penthouse.
Magazine, Larry Flint, right? Who was shot. And so I'm like, I don't know what this, probably, but what they said, I go into Century City, open up. There was one vagina shot after the other. Black, white, Asian. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. How can I go home and tell my kids I'm like doing this stuff? This is like not a mommy thing for sure. So I knew I could do beautiful bedrooms and stuff, but I didn't take the job. So then my business
shocked.
Which I wanted to, but like, mommy, what did you do today? Oh, yeah, I did a bedroom and they're having sex in the bedroom. That's the no. So, and then, I had another child and business, kept picking up. So at this point, so how I became a general contractor. I'm on a job.
So far, I don't really see a lot of groundwork.
Okay, so I'm at this job site and this guy's a neurosurgeon, like a biggest asshole, mean neurosurgeon. You know why you can be mean as a neurosurgeon? Because they have no communication with the patients, because every patient is under. If they're working on your head, you're not, you're not communicating. So that's why it doesn't matter. They can be mean. So I'm doing the business. I help him hire the contractor. He and the contractor goes voting. It's ridiculous. I'm getting yelled at. I'm asked to measure the windows. I'm not getting paid for this. This is ridiculous. I'm going to become a contractor. So I went to my electrician. I said, you need to teach me 2 trades in order for me to even apply for the license. He taught me electrical and masonry. So I got electrical and masonry and I went to contracting school and did the whole thing. It was a thing. And then when I went to take my test, they said, oh, good, you're here for the secretarial job. I'm like,
no.
No. I am here to do my contractor's license, which was like a heavy duty test because half of it was law and the other half was like drawings and practical and plumbing.
No, it's a tough test.
And it's mainly men.
Tough test. So then if I didn't have so many problems as a designer, now it opened up a whole new field. I needed contractor's insurance. I needed workman's comp. I needed all my contractors to be licensed. It opened up a whole can of worms, but I got a lot of PR. LA Magazine wrote me up, LA Business Journal wrote me up, and LA, the Sunday LA, so who's who. So it was,
Wow.
nice, and it was great, and I got a lot of, I didn't feel any different. I felt I could do this. I love doing it, and I'll tell you why. I am passionate about what I do because I go from inception to completion. And what that means is I do the drawings, I pull the permits, I shop with the client, I order everything. I then have all my workmen, after we come up with a price, have all my workmen implement the job. And at the end of the job, I bring the cleaning crew and send flowers. And it's great. It's great.
Oh,
And
my
so
goodness.
I have had so much good luck, knock on glass, in my in
Wow.
this area because people want to just pay one person. People
Right.
want to just know one person. So they would pay me. And then when I took credit cards, it upped their budget because they would feel like, oh my God, they could spend more.
Right.
So my business is great. I've done restaurants. My one thing that I've always wanted to do, maybe you can help me, is I've always wanted to do hotel lobbies, but I've never
Oh,
been able to. Not Marriott's and things like that. I wanted to do like boutique lobbies, and I've sent resumes and photos to people in San Francisco because I thought I could be a little edgier and a little more creative, and it's not repeated 12 other times.
Right.
So that's one thing that I've always wanted to do. I also, during that period of time, wrote a book called Eye on Design. So that's the people who can't, who want to do it themselves, but they can never do it themselves, but they want to do it themselves. So I give them,
so
all
they
the
would be involved at least.
at least they're involved. But if they can't afford to hire me, it's like measure twice, cut once, that kind of simplistic information. You wouldn't buy a pair of shoes without trying it on, but it's astonishing to me that you would buy an 8-foot sofa and not make sure it could fit through your front door. I mean, really, like, right? But a $39.99 pair of shoes, you would try them on.
Right.
But today, of course, you'd order it online, but then you would always try it on. They had no idea. They would order things, call me in after, what do I do? I'm like, we gotta throw this away. It's not gonna fit. I can't cut it in half. What do you want me to, like, what can I do with it? So I thought that everybody thought like I did. I swear to God, I was so naive. I thought the whole world, like I can walk into a room and know exactly what it needs and see it in my mind finished.
That's
And
a
I
gift.
That is a
That's a
gift.
I
gift.
had no idea. I thought everybody knew what I knew.
I do not have that gift. Just don't.
You have other things. I can't balance a checkbook. I mean, I'm not, that's why I have somebody who does my quick, but I can't do any of that. So people really didn't know. And I was so astonished because whatever age, I always had this like 14-year-old brain. So I never had any idea. Really? You don't know that and that doesn't work together? No, we don't. We have no idea, which was so curious to me. But then I realized after building a business, like I'm not good in the money end. I'm not good in the estimate end. I'm not good in the invoicing end. I was never good at asking for money. But I have this 32-year-old who's a bulldog. And Chrissy is fabulous. And she has her master's degree in accounting. She'll call you up. You owe Eileen $12,000. How would you like to pay? Check or credit card? I would be so fake. You know what I mean?
Forward.
I mean, she's like, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. So most of my experiences have been great. Right now, for another time, I have sort of an asshole I'm working with, but I will know for the future never to work with attorneys because,
That's how you learn.
That's how you learn. And I'm going to mediation with him and hopefully I'll make it all go away.
So how did you, like, when you're doing all these shifts and transitions to your life, like, how did you balance? You're a mom. How did you balance all that? Because those were
So-
some big shifts.
So after my mother died, I went to like Freudian therapy, like sitting in the chair, looking at the ceiling, going, I've just counted like 25 dots in the ceiling. He was like, yeah, well, whatever. So I went to therapy. And then after my boyfriend broke up with me, remember the whole S thing, the Warner Earhart and all of that.
Yep.
So I went to that, and that set me into a really bad tizzy. So I had to move back to Philadelphia because I was so young and didn't have the tools. So then I went to therapy 3 times a week. My father sent me. My father ended up marrying my mother's cousin through marriage. So,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
she was fine. So after about going for a month, this guy started telling me his problems. I'm like, hey, you are the therapist. I am not the therapist. I don't do this. So I said, I think it's time for me to go back to LA. So I went back to LA. The doctor hired me again.
Oh, he did.
I said to him, I just want you to know, I'm not going to stay forever, but I love you and I'm going to, give you enough notice and find someone to replace me. But this isn't I know this is not my calling. And this is the thing. People would say to me, are you going to hurt? Do you know what you're doing, drawing blood? No, I've never done it. And yes, I'm going to hurt. I mean, who asked those? When you get blood drawn, have you ever done it? Everybody says it. Are you gentle? And I thought, I don't know. I'm loving, I'm kind. I don't want to do any of this. So therapy was good. Warner, your heart was bad, but then I kind of got my grouping together and I moved back and moved in with a roommate who was an alcoholic who I found in the tub, and I was like, I think you're not well, So
Because I have a medical degree, I can tell that.
something is obviously not right. So I moved out of there. I moved in with this boyfriend who was going to law school before I got married. And he wanted a mother. I was so young. I wasn't ready to be anybody's mother. I was like 20 something. So I moved out and found my own place and, the whole thing. And then I got very sad because I was only I thought that you put your shingle out and everybody comes. No, that's not what happens. It
You got
doesn't
an
happen.
interesting education throughout all.
It doesn't happen that way. So my brother lived in Santa Fe. My brother owned John Muir Publications, which is How to Keep Your Volkswagen Alive, midwifery, all this stuff. I moved out from my girlfriend because something in the back of my mind said, you need to live by yourself. I mean, there's something about being single, you need to live by yourself. So I had this fabulous place, which really was too much money for me in Brentwood. And I was only working part-time and I was trying to develop this business. Well, I'm not, like a relaxed person. Obviously.
Oh, thank you for telling us that.
And wait, I get up at 4:30. I listen to 3 Abraham Hicks. I journal. I do yoga. I meditate and do my affirmations. So you would think I would be like a vegetable. No. I was either blessed or cursed with all this energy. I don't know. I mean, I can outrun, most people. So
You have a lot of stuff that you've gone through.
I have a lot of stuff. So I'm sitting in this apartment thinking, I'm not working. I'm not this. So I thought, what am I going to do? So I thought, my mother isn't around. She was my best friend. I can't really call my father because he's now with the cousin. So how I got through that period of time was, I thought to myself, okay, you're young. You've overcome a lot of things. Your mother had one leg. Even though she was your best friend, you were kind of angry because all the other girls were going shopping with their mothers, buying clothes and going to the mall. I couldn't do that because my mother couldn't do it. So you got through that and you'll get through this and you're going to be just fine. So that's what I did. So I went back to yoga and I went back to journaling and meditation. and did that whole thing. And I've been doing it for years.
Sounds like you gave yourself some loving self-talk. That was really, really important.
Exactly.
You
Loving
validated all the stuff
self-talk.
you've been through.
We did have a ball. So I'm learning now how to do more self-care because, and I'll go back to my child. I had the most amazing husband. My husband is so handsome. My kids are beautiful. I have 3 of the most gorgeous, remember I had my kids so young, grandchildren. I have a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and they are fabulous. And I knew I couldn't be a Gigi, a Mimi, a hoo-ha, a Bubby. I wasn't going to be any of it. It wasn't me. So I went online and said, what's going to resonate? So I'm an Oma, and that feels great. And that feels
okay.
I'm an Oma, and the kids can say it easy, and the other grandparents or grandpa and grandma. So I got it covered. So anyway, my husband always made a good living, and he was just the most wonderful. There was not one person in the world who doesn't like my husband, but he's a lot of. So 3 years ago, he got a job at the prison to be a pharmacist at the prison. And that's where JC Dugard's crazy was, Manson was 3 or 4 years ago, and Phil Spector was. But he didn't really have to interact because the nurses came, picked up the medication. They were all on, antipsychotic things. Well, in his 2nd year there, they changed the computer system. He couldn't pick it up. So they said to him, you have to, we're sorry, we can't renew your contract.
Yeah.
Well, that's all. He was so proud of having his PhD in pharmacy. Excuse me. So then I went through a whole series of PET scans and MRIs and the whole thing. And because of his IQ, he's a lot better than most people would be because he has a very high IQ, but his short-term memory gone. I say to him, what do you have for lunch today? No idea.
Yeah.
His long-term memory better. He still showers, makes the bed. I give him these chores, takes the trash out, sometimes makes dinner. He's not an angry Alzheimer's person because it wasn't in his nature. I will never, ever have another man love me like this. He puts me on a pet. I said to him, look at these lines. He goes, what lines? You look as beautiful as the day I married you. I'm like, I love you.
Love that in a guy.
Love that. He goes,
I'll tell you something, Eileen, before we went in the air, Lorna was saying how impressed she was with how the self-care routine that you've developed because you've been through all these traumas and tough life situations and still under quite a bit of pressure with not only that, but you still are working full time.
Well, I think that it's so hard. I mean, so many women have such a hard time balancing that, and they usually put themselves on the back burner. So it was when I read that about you, I just thought that's just really pretty amazing that you are as successful as you are and as focused on you and your career, have a husband that has Alzheimer's, and you still take time for yourself. I think that in itself is an inspiration to so many women because we don't do that typically.
Well, and I love that. So what kinds of things do you do? Now you do yoga, you do meditation.
Yoga, I do some Pilates, but now I was at Whole Foods and I fell in March and I hit my leg. Nobody came over, kind of took my wind away. And about 3 weeks later, I got black and blue. So now I did 2 epidurals, didn't help. I have this pain going down my leg, but I can't have surgery because what am I going to do with the husband who's here, who needs me? So I'm now looking into other options. So we'll see what happens with that. This is what I did. My daughter wasn't born, and I could see that my kids are 3 years apart, so I could see that my business was expanding. I had an au pair to begin with, but they were, my Japanese au pair became more American and more makeup than I ever did. I was like, whoa, who went on a motorcycle with her boyfriend? I'm like, I'm giving you food, man. I don't know. So I ended up looking for someone who was like just coming from Guatemala. Tina was here today. That's how long she's been with me. Tina got married in my backyard I was her flower girl and my husband walked her down the aisle. We don't speak Spanish, but we do our Spanglish. you know.
Communicate, that's right.
Communicate. I sent her to school, I try but my daughter went to Spain during a couple of her semesters in college. So she's totally literate in Spanish, and she's teaching this
That's
1-year-old.
cool.
She's cool. So her and Tina, Tina, so how do you think I made my business so successful? Because I had a live-in, and the live-in cooked. She did laundry. The live-in picked up my kids and walked them home. So she did all that. And then when I came home, she was off, and I did homework, and I took them to baseball and soccer, and oh, so you love this. So I was the brownie leader. So I said, oh, I don't really do things that make me dirty, but no problem. So this is what I did. All the other leaders were like, hunting in the woods for deer horns or something. I'm like, yeah, fuck that noise. So I set up a plan. We made a first aid kit. Okay, so that was a badge. But
Right.
then we did a kit that would teach them how to set the table. Here's where the forks go. Here's where this is the placemat or whatever. Here's where a wine glass.
Little
And taught,
billion going on there.
and they were like, oh, the mothers were like, thank
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely.
And then I taught them how to coordinate. So I said, I want you to bring a hair thing, and I want you to bring shoe ties, and I want you to bring like socks, and show me what you think goes together. And they love that.
Oh,
they,
they did.
and they loved it. So now we have to take a field trip, right? So I said, yeah, we're doing this cabin stuff, because the one time, go see how sheltered the one time I went, camping, I didn't know. I bought a hot pink jogging suit. I brought all my makeup and my hair stuff, and I went in the bathroom and I'm blowing dry my hair. These women look like crap. And I'm thinking, whoa, what's wrong with you gals? Nobody does that. I brought a whole brisket while everybody was making hot dogs. And I put cookies ahead of time. People could not stay away from my campsite. I'm like,
I bet.
so
You really lived from what worked for you. And you
absolutely, it made me great. That is one thing I have to share that I have learned, through my business coaching, through my psychology coaching, through my meditation. You can't worry about what someone else thinks about you, because there's always in this lifetime going to be someone who doesn't like you or is jealous of you. It's just the way life is. So let it be. There's people you don't like, and that's fine.
That's such awesome advice, because it's one of the most important things, is because you have to focus on you. You have to take care of you. You have to be healthy and strong for your kids, for your husband, for your business, for everybody. And if you don't take care of you, it's just not going to happen.
Exactly.
You
and
can't waste all that energy thinking someone doesn't like me.
Right.
Yeah, and I have a lot of energy, so that would be a lot of wasted energy.
That's
Let
right.
me just tell you, at the end of the day, my mother was 52. I don't want to sit or lay in my dying bed and said, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. Never say that, guys. Do everything you need to do or think you want to do. Cross out your bucket list. I've been to Australia, I've been to Hong Kong, I've been to Hawaii 8 times, been to Florida, I've been all over the world. And I took my kids everywhere with my husband. And thank God I did, because my husband can't travel now.
That's right. So you really lived your life. Talk about a supernova.
Yeah.
A woman.
I live my life, and I never not took my kids. And my kids to this day say thank you. Thank you.
Oh, well, that's so special.
Travel anymore. He can't.
Because what we do is we encourage women. You go through things. Everybody goes through transitions in their lives. Some feel good, some don't feel so good. But what happens when you go through a transition and you decide to live your life your fullest, which is what you've done ever since your early traumas from childhood, you, my friend, are a real supernova.
Yes, she
And,
is.
and,
Thank you.
and I love that about you. And I love that you shared your story. And I love that you gave our audience advice that they can really work with. One, not worrying about what people think about you because everybody's got an opinion.
And
And
then the other thing is an affirmation every day in every way. I'm getting better and better.
oh, I love
Oh,
that.
I
It's
love
Jose.
And that is
Jose
what
Silva.
I feel fall asleep to.
Jose Silva is I get that, and I've taught that myself. I love that.
Right? I
Every
love that.
day and every way, I'm getting better and better.
Getting better and better. And whatever it is, I will work through it because I can.
You are a powerful woman, very
Thank you.
insightful. Thank you so much, Eileen, for
Ladies.
sharing your
Wait,
story.
love-
Get the book.
You're
Oh,
very
you guys,
All right, lady, thank you so much. I
care.
look forward
Have-
to meeting you in person.
me
Thank
too.
that was great.
Ladies.
Thank you.